Yes, it's load shedding. I'm in darkness. So someone in the village told me that the painting that I had behind me in the previous 2 episodes doesn't reflect what Stanford is all about, because I had an old Volkswagen that looks a bit beat up in the picture with a sign of Stanford next to it, and I was told that that is a bad picture for the village. I'm not going to do too much talking because I get myself into trouble if I do. So no more trouble for me. I came here to have a peaceful life. Let's get to the first segment, and it's all about the youth and someone that wants to do good in our community.
My name is Untitled Chapter, and I am from Stanford. I have been living in Stanford for the past almost 36 years, and I can say that I'm a very proud Stanfordian. I love my community, I love its people, I love its animals, I love the nature, I just love everything about Stanford. And the one thing that I would love to preserve and conserve of this beautiful village is the respect that I've learned from the older generation. Now I'm talking about my grandmothers and my grandfather's age. Those people who taught us the way forward is through respect and discipline. So I would like to just to work with that morals, to conserve something and to plant the seed for a new generation. Because where we are moving into today, I don't see any future for the youth today, unfortunately. It is sad, but there's so much more that we can do. So with everybody's help and input, and we can achieve so much more, we can enrich so much more lives if we can just take what we have and share it with the people around us. There are so many people who just need a place where they can feel that sense of belonging, which is so important in a child's life. So that is what my youth project will be about. I want to conserve what I've learned through the years by older generations. Some people have passed on, they're not with us anymore, but we can always remember that paksela that Tannie gave us, that skel that Oom gave us when we sweared or when we did something we weren't supposed to do. So that is the type of things people need to know. I just want our youth to distinguish between right and wrong, to change their behavior towards their future. I want to help our youth to look forward to a brighter future. And I think with the help of all of us in this community, we can make a difference. What we are desperately in need of is a place where we can run these projects from. So what I was thinking, or actually visioning, was a lot of our people drop out of school. They do not have the reading skills or the writing skills like a 16-year-old or a 14-year-old are supposed to have. So I would like to get the children who was suspended or just don't want to go back to school anymore, get them off the street, create a center, a safe space where they can learn how to read, learn how to write, learn how to use a computer, get other people in to do some skills with their hands, because at the end of the day, we need to teach our children to work with hands. The only thing that keeping us from achieving that goal is a structure, a place where this whole new vision can actually visualize and realize and just become a reality for so many people who's in need of it.
Speaking of the youth, I popped in at Castle Harriet. There's a jazz day coming up soon, but let the young man tell you about it himself.
Martin and I and young Catherine, we've decided to do a follow-up over the past few years of something called the International Jazz Day, which occurs every year all over the world on the 30th of April. It occurs in villages, towns, cities, and it's taking place in my garden in Stanford, and it will take place on the 30th of April this year, beginning around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're inviting people to come along. Bring your own braai, bring your own food, bring your own drinks, bring your own chairs if you need them. We've got lots of chairs here, and just settle into an afternoon of easy listening jazz, easy listening tempos, tuneful, the kind of jazz that most people of all ages, particularly the ones who are a little bit older, will remember from days gone by.
And now our regular segment about gardening with Warren Stechman. He planted some flowers in a basket and then he hung them up. Warren?
Welcome back, Stanford. Today we're tackling hanging baskets, everyone's favorite pot plant to kill. Many years ago I worked overseas and in Germany, and they used to plant these hanging baskets of geraniums, gerania, and we call them pelargoniums, that's the correct name. These plants were epic. They were enormous and beautiful, and anyone that's traveled to Europe sees these hanging baskets and I think comes back home and wonders, but why don't we see them in South Africa? And one of the reasons is because they feed and feed and feed some more. They also water a lot. Today I'm going to go through a few things that you need to consider when making your own hanging baskets, and I'm going to try and get us as close as possible to those epic European hanging baskets as we can get. First thing you need to do is decide where your hanging basket's going to go and what type of hanging basket to buy. If dripping is an issue, then try and get something with a saucer. This is kind of the everyday one that all the nurseries have, and if you bought a hanging plant in a nursery, it'd probably come in one of these. They usually have a little plug underneath, and sometimes that little rubber catch is missing, but you will see if that is there, it has an internal saucer. So there is actually a saucer, there's a water reservoir down below, and this will not drip. Probably the most popular type of hanging baskets are these wire baskets, which come with a coir liner. They look good straight away. You're not hiding plastic. Sometimes people opt to line them with coir, actual coir, and not with a coir mat. And this is what it looks like. It's not so difficult to do. You do need quite a lot, and then you would fan it out inside the basket, and then you end up with a similar looking product. But what happens here in Stanford is that the birds think that this is for them, and so within a few weeks you'll see most of this has been pulled out through the hanging basket, and you end up with nothing, and there's beautiful nests all around the village. So I think this is a better bet, and today I had a wonderful tip from Connie Anderson here in the village, and she said when these get old and tired, rather than throwing them away, what she does is she takes some weed mat and puts that into the basket, overlaps it obviously, and then puts this back, and obviously then you have a lovely black background and you cannot see the decaying coir underneath. So that's a very nice tip from her. Right, we've got our liner. The next thing we're going to do is add our soil. Now, in our first episode we did how to make your own potting soil. I'm using that exact same mix here today. I have already saturated some gel so that you can see it. Now, if you add a water absorbent gel product into the base of your hanging basket, just be careful, because when it's dry, it's a powder, and once it absorbs water, it really expands so much that it can actually push your plants out of the soil again. So for that reason, I've actually pre-mixed some. I'm going to show you what it looks like. And that is the jelly, and that is the reservoir. Now, if you don't have this gel at home, you could always use a sanitary pad or a maternal sanitary pad, and that'll have the same effect. And I'm sprinkling this at the bottom of my hanging basket. I'll have to break this up with my fingers, because this is the part of the hanging basket that dries out first. So that's where I want to have a reservoir of gel. The next thing is fertilizer. Now, when I worked in Germany at Gärtnerei Schwab all those years ago, my job, a very complicated job, was to sprinkle the Dünger, the Osmocote slow release fertilizer into the hanging basket or into the window box. If you can't get Osmocote, any liquid fertilizer, Nitrosol, Seagrow, any of those will do. The important thing I would say is to apply them regularly. Look at those dilution rates. Maybe do a weaker dilution rate, but apply it more frequently. Maybe every watering or during the week 2 or 3 times. The important thing is that you feed and feed and feed and feed. We've got a water reservoir, we've got a slow release fertilizer. I will still attack this with some liquid fertilizers to make sure that these plants are getting all the nutrition they need. Remember, they're going to be in a very confined space. There's not going to be a lot of place for them to get the nutrients they need. You need to give it to them. What are you going to plant in your hanging basket? Now, I think with hanging baskets, less is more. So, in other words, typically do 2 or 3 plants of the same species in one basket. So if we're doing, and even the same color, this would do well in front of a house, on a patio, or on a street, anywhere where people are passing by quickly. When this is on your patio or somewhere where you're going to be up close and personal, that's when you can get creative, and there really are no rules. Take whatever you think is beautiful. Remember, hanging baskets are not forever. You can eventually take these plants out and rehome them in your garden. You can use annuals, you can use perennials, you can use all different kinds of plants. One good tip that I often do here in the nursery is, if I'm looking for a hardy perennial hanging basket and I need to save money, I grab one of those blue nursery 6-packs. So these are really value for money 6-packs. These are perennials, and often what I'll do is I'll just take the whole thing out and plonk it into a hanging basket, and I'm done. And that is a very cheap and effective way. This is a rather large hanging basket. I'd probably use something a bit smaller, and very often a plastic one, and I just put all 6 plants in there, and that's it. You know, it's a quick fix, and it works. There are no rules. Play with color. Look and see what you like. Speak to your nurseryman. Find out what grows in the shade, what grows in the sun. You don't want to put something that should be in shade out in the sun and it gets incinerated over a weekend. Make sure that you've got the right plants in the right place. But as far as the type of plants are concerned, you could really play around, because you can take these plants and plant them in the garden when you're done with the hanging basket. Traditionally, we always look for something like the Suteria here, it's called Bacopa, that trails over the edge. You could do something, these zonal pelargoniums, they don't get very large. They're about 30 centimeters high, these beautiful hybrids. And we always would typically go for the hanging pelargoniums, but these would also be great hanging basket specimens. Consider about from what angle you'd be looking at these baskets. Something like a fuchsia you would appreciate more when these flowers are hanging above you. And obviously, this you would see from a distance. So consider all the angles and the factors involved. You could plant something like these violas. You could make holes in the sides of the hanging basket and allow them to trail under the basket or over the edges of the basket. The sky's the limit. Use your imagination, be an artist. Maintaining your hanging baskets is something else you'll have to think about. This beautiful petunia, Beautical Bordeaux behind me, is a perennial petunia, and typically they can go on and on. But what you do need to do is you need to cut them back. So I know we don't like cutting back our plants, particularly when they're looking good like this one, but it is the right thing to do. I'm going to show you how to do it in just a second. So you can see there's lots and lots of spent flower blooms here. They're gone. We've got flowers that are still going. I could wait until this ends up being just a mass of sticks and hardly any leaves, but why wait? These plants are still healthy. I'm going to cut them back now. I'm going to fertilize them, and in 3 weeks' time they're going to be back to their beautiful selves again. I've been brutal. She's had her hair cut. If you want to see whether I've killed this plant or done something good, visit the nursery in 3 weeks' time and you'll see for yourself.
Thank you for watching episode 3 of Village TV. Any suggestions or complaints, please mail me at villagetv.stanford@gmail.com. And I'd like to end off by saying, don't be a just be lekker.